In this video, I'm going to be going over a bunch of creatures that a very low percentage of players actually have. It's going to start out pretty rare and pretty hard to get, but it's going to start getting more and more difficult until the end, where it's going to be pretty insane. Starting the list off at number 10 is the unicorn, considered to be one of the rarest creatures in the game. It just shows you how crazy this list is going to get, considering this is one of the rarest. But that's probably the reason I have it on here. It's not really hard to tame at all. It's the same taming method as an Equus, where you passively tame it with like rock carrots and stuff. But you can only find one of them on the map, and they're usually pretty rare to find. And I'm pretty sure once it dies, or once it gets tamed, no other ones can spawn. So you can only have one tamed on the entire map, making this thing extremely rare, but not super hard to get. At number 9, I have the Titanosaur, one of the strongest creatures in the game, a massive sauropod that you can pretty much kill anything with and has a ton of health. This is actually really hard to tame. It's not insanely hard to find. There's usually 3 on the map and they're really easy to spot, but they are really hard to tame, and you have to go way out of your way to go tame one, because you need to knock it out with cannonballs, and you have to make the saddle, which takes thousands of metal and resources. It's not really common to one tame one of these, especially if you're not on PvP, which is where most of these would be useful. You can also only keep it for 24 hours, which is another reason it would be on the list, is because it'll die after 24 hours. At number 8, I have the Desert Titan. This one takes a lot of things to spawn in, like a bunch of corrupted hearts and artifact and all kinds of other tributes. And once you spawn it in, you can either kill it or you can tame it. And taming it is quite a difficult task, as you have to basically destroy all the corrupted nodes. I'd say it's a bit harder than the Titanosaur is, but it's the easiest of all of the Titans, even though you can only keep this one for 24 hours, similar to the other one. But you'd want to use it for maybe the King Titan boss fight, but this one's also the least used in that fight, I'm pretty sure. And number 7 after that is the Forest Titan. I think it's harder than the Desert Titan because it moves around a lot more. You can kind of miss your shots with it, but you can also use the mech's like cannon thing to basically shoot the corrupted nodes off. So this one's harder to tame. It moves a lot and it's really dangerous. Can basically whip you off your mount with the little like stun attack it has. So there's a lot to try and do when taming this thing, and you can only keep it for 24 hours. And at number 6, I have the Ice Titan. I'd say this one is the hardest of all the Titans to try and tame, which is why it's above all the other ones. It basically moves around a bunch, it'll jump around, and making it really hard to hit, as well as the corrupted nodes like on the back of its leg, which kind of sucks and is really hard to hit there. And then it's gonna like move around its body, and I believe it's like on its stomach or in the middle of its chest. It's just really hard to get those angles on it and hit it. It's easily the hardest of all the Titans to try and tame and you usually use all these Titans for the boss fight, and once again it lasts for 24 hours, so you don't really get to keep this one forever, which means not many players have it at any given time. At number 5, I have the Phoenix. This one could argue to be below the Titans, but I don't really think so, as it is not really one you go out to tame. The Titans are tamed mainly because of the King Titan boss fight, so there's actually a good reason to go out and tame this thing. The Phoenix isn't really seen as the most useful creature in the game, even though it can have some uses. It's so late game that you don't want to end up taming it, and the reason you don't want to go out and tame it is because, first of all, it's extremely rare. Not many people have seen one. I played this game for 7 years and I've only seen one Phoenix, and that was like an Arc Ascended. I didn't even see an Arc Survival Evolved, or at least spawn naturally anyway. So these things are extremely rare and only spawn during super heats, which is like they're usually like 10 minutes long. And then for a while you're not going to get another one. And then you have to tame it with fire. It's not the hardest taming method in the world, but it's not the easiest thing either. So with the extremely rare abundance of this thing, as well as it not being the easiest thing to tame and not being super useful, so you don't really get out of your way to go get it, makes it one of the creatures that just not many people end up having in general, making it pretty rare. And number 4 is the Leoplorodon. This one was kind of hard to place because this ranking is more about how many people have this creature and how rare it is for them to have it. And when you're thinking of it like that, then pretty much nobody has this creature because you only have it for 30 minutes. So you basically tame it, you get it for 30 minutes, and then it disappears. So I guarantee not many people have this thing at the moment, but at the same time, it's not as hard to get as some of the other ones on the list later. So I'm just going to keep it here. Another reason it's up here is because it's just so rare. You rarely ever see this thing. I've only seen 2 in my entire time playing Ark. One in Ark Survival Evolved and one in Ark Survival Ascended. So these things are not very common. And then once you do end up taming them, there's not really a use in taming them. It's not like some other creatures where you actually have a main use. The ability it has is where it basically makes loot crates better, but most people I've heard that have actually used it have said it doesn't really help that much. so people don't really go out of their way to try and tame the Leoplorodon, making it one of the least tamed creatures in the entire game because of its rarity like that. It's not insanely hard to tame, you basically just tame it with honey, but still making it extremely rare and not very common. It only lasting 30 minutes, so that's why it's going to be here at number 4. At number 3, we have Fenrir. This one is probably the hardest creature to get in the entire game, which is why it's going to be at number 3, but of course you'll see later why there's 2 above it. But this one, basically, you have to defeat Fenrir Sulfur in order to get it, so you have to beat a boss, but in order to fight Fenrir Sulfur, you have to fight 6 other bosses on all of Fjordur. So basically you have to start by just killing the mini bosses, which in order to do those you need to kill a bunch of alpha creatures. The mini bosses you need to fight are Steinborn, and then you have to fight Bela, and then after that you have to fight Hadi and Skull. Once you do that, you'll get the relics, so you can basically go fight the other island guardians that are on Fjordur, which is the Broodmother, and then you have to fight the dragon, and then you have to fight the Megapithecus. And once you do all of that, you'll be able to go fight Fenrir Sulfur, where you basically, once you kill it, you'll be given a cryopod with a Fenrir in it at a random level. So you have to do a lot of work for this thing, and honestly, it's not the most useful thing for all the work you have to do, as it's pretty much like a mid-tier item or mid-game creature that you would actually get, but of course you get it insanely late game. It does have one cool use though, is it actually works as a refrigerator, so you can keep items in there and keep them cool, as well as things that you can't normally put in there, like nameless venom, which is pretty cool. Number 2, I have the Zombie Dodo. You can actually tame this, and you can only get it during the Fear Evolved event, which doesn't happen anymore, so you had to have gotten this during one of the Fear Evolved events, and how you got it was you actually just had to kill the Dodo Rex, which is a really strong world boss, and it's insanely tough. So you basically have to bring an army there of some pretty unique methods you could use to go kill it. Once you do, you could claim all of its Zombie Dodo minions. So I imagine, obviously there's some people who probably still have those, but you would have had to do it during that certain time, and not everyone was playing during that time. Not everyone was able to defeat that and actually claim them, and maybe those worlds end up not sticking around. So for all those reasons, the Zombie Dodo probably doesn't have many people who actually have one still legitimately. At number 1 is the rarest or hardest creature to get in Ark Survival Evolved is the Zombie Wyverns. For mainly a lot of the reasons that the Zombie Dodo was hard, you can only get them during the Fear Evolved event, which of course there are no more Fear Evolved events in Ark Survival Evolved anymore, so you had to get them during those certain times, and you can only really tame them in the more recent ones. And how you would tame them is very similar to the Zombie Dodo. You'd have to kill these Dodo Wyvern, which is a really hard boss in itself, and of course it could be like cheesed because it is a world boss. You could use like turrets and stuff to kill it, but still it is a pretty difficult boss, and you only had a very small window of time to actually get these things, and you could actually claim them like above level like 300 or 400. I'm sure someone will like comment the exact numbers below, but it was really high levels you could actually get these things, so that was one of the reasons you'd want to get them. And they're actually smaller than regular wyverns, but they are really cool and probably one of the dopest creatures in the game. Obviously insanely rare now, but I don't think that there's going to be that many people who still have them, because of course them being very rare, you only have one chance to get them, and now you can't get them anymore. So for all those reasons, that's why they're at number 1, the hardest creatures to get. But if you guys did enjoy that video, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe. Thanks for watching, and bye.